Northwestern is one of the poorest areas of Vietnam, which is the dwelling places of the ethnic minority groups including Thái, Dao, Mông, Tày, Kinh Nùng. Rugged mountainous terrains and harsh climate have caused many difficulties in the development of agroforestry sector. At the same time, the current use of unsustainable farming land in this area has posed many negative impacts on the environment and degradation of the forest resources, leading to local poverty. Over the past 5 years, the project Agroforestry for Smallholder Livelihoods in northwestern of Vietnam, or AFLI, was implemented by the World Agroforestry Center and Australian Government for International Agricultural Research. The project AFLI has been implemented in 3 provinces of Sơn La, Điện Biên, and Yên Bái in cooperation with the Department of Agriculture and Rural Development in the provinces and some centers of scientific research in Vietnam. Through this project, the World Agroforestry Center supported testing of agroforestry systems in local people's farms with the aim of improving the efficiency of farming systems as smallholders.
Hello and welcome to Sharing Vietnam on VTC Thanabit Among Nhật. In recent years, the issues of developing the livelihoods for the Northwestern farmers in Vietnam has gained much attention from the local and international organizations, and a lot of projects have been carried out in recent years. So in our program today, we have talked to Mrs. Delia Catacutan, the country's representative from the World Agroforestry Center in Hanoi, and she will share more about this topic. Thank you, Mrs. Delia, for joining our program today. Well, first of all, having been participated in the Sustainable Agroforestry facilitating projects in Vietnam recently, so how do you evaluate the success of this sector?
The agroforestry sector in Vietnam is unfortunately quite small, relative to the pure agriculture and forestry sectors. It is because of the limited promotional activities and investments in agroforestry. This is also because there is no home for agroforestry as such institutionally. So it's very difficult to promote it vigorously because there's no single institution that is in charge of promoting agroforestry. So in this case, it makes the sector grow in a very slow pace.
So Vietnam is a country with a diversified and complicated topography, for example, hills and mountains, sea coastal line or continent shelf. So what are the advantages and disadvantages to develop the agroforestry sector?
Well, there are really multiple advantages if we promote agroforestry in this kind of topography in a country like Vietnam, where there's rugged terrains of mountains, the coast, and so on and so forth. Because when agroforestry is designed in the proper way and implemented in the proper way, it really produces multiple benefits, both from an economic perspective and from an ecological perspective. And it helps spread the risks, of production in as far as farmers is concerned. Of course, there are challenges. As I mentioned earlier, the challenge has been on the limited investments and recognition of agroforestry as a viable farming system. Many of the farmers in the mountainous areas, of course, they face more challenges in terms of limited productive resources like access to land, access to financing, access to knowledge and skills, information, as well as markets.
Well, up to now, how do you evaluate the effectiveness of the agroforestry facilitating models in Vietnam, especially in the remote and mountainous areas?
The facilitating models for agroforestry dissemination and adoption is really is very vague. It's very ambiguous at the moment, because any extension activities is supposed to be done by the extension system. But the problem is that our extension system, particularly at the commune level, the extension workers, they're not particularly trained on agroforestry. So they themselves do not have the right knowledge and skills in order to promote agroforestry. So that's where the challenge is, because these people do not went to school, to study agroforestry. So it makes it very complicated, actually, in that sense. And what we've found so far in our activities in the Northwest, for example, people are not necessarily against it, and some of them are very, very interested. But for mountainous people, they have a preference, particularly the ethnic minorities, they have a preference on the type of communication materials that you actually use for promoting agroforestry.
So in your opinion, what are the most suitable livelihoods for the mountainous and the remote farmers?
Agroforestry is the most viable option for livelihoods in the mountainous region. If you integrate trees and crops and livestock or even fish in one whole system, you are able to have, farmers are able to have harvest from crops, annual crops like maize, cassava, or even legumes, peanuts, soybeans, and so on. You will have harvest from fruit trees or timber trees. You will have some source of food for your animals or even for your fish. So it's really a very holistic system. So I cannot find any other viable livelihood option for farmers in the mountainous region but agroforestry, basically.
Sơn La is a poor province in the northwestern mountainous region of Vietnam. Sơn La has humid subtropical mountainous climate. Because the terrain is divided deeply and strongly, several subclimates are formed, allowing the development of a production foundation for rich agroforestry. In the past few years, thanks to the guidance of experts from the project Agroforestry for Smallholder Livelihoods in northwestern of Vietnam, AFLI, local farmers already knew how to do farming with livestock and brought high economic efficiency.
Đầu tiên mình trồng cỏ là để tăng thêm cỏ để cho chăn nuôi, và thứ hai nữa là cây như cây xoài, cây nhãn, cây mỡ, cây mận thì mình muốn mở rộng thêm cây trồng. Mình tham gia mô hình thử nghiệm năm đầu tiên là cho hiệu quả rất là tốt, và mình muốn mở rộng thêm nữa, là chống được cái tác dụng là chống xói mòn là cao, vì mà hiệu quả kinh tế cũng được khá hơn.
The story is similar to the local farmers in Yên Bái province. Since applying the proper agroforestry development, their cultivation has become better. At the garden of Mr. Lê Văn Hưng, the new stems technique from pruning to seedling and planting different types of trees.
Nếu như trước kia thì có thể là mình chỉ biết là đi mua cây giống thôi, cây giống cũng không biết nó là cây giống gì mà nó ra sao, nhưng thực tế bây giờ là anh em trong đoàn đã về chỉ dẫn này, hướng dẫn từ cái khâu làm vườn ươm này, chuẩn bị các cái công tác, sau đó là lại đưa giống cây mà nó bảo đảm chất lượng và về hướng dẫn cho bà con anh em là biết chiết ghép rồi làm tự mình làm, nên để sau này mình có một cái cơ sở để cho mình tự phát triển kinh tế của mình và cái cuộc sống của mình sau này.
Các địa phương cũng cần phải tiếp tục với là rà soát đánh giá, và cũng phải là tiếp tục với là phối hợp vào để vận động các nhà tài trợ, rồi có thể là huy động cái nguồn lực từ địa phương để xây dựng những cái thử nghiệm trong cái điều kiện tương đồng, và người dân người ta sẽ có cái cơ hội để người ta tiếp cận với tiến bộ kỹ thuật mới.
Northwestern is one of the areas where most of the population are ethnic minorities who have restriction on market access. Therefore, the support of the livelihood projects will help farmers grasp the scientific knowledge and planning techniques for economic development. Agroforestry products such as longan, sancha that local farmers have been growing certainly have the possibility of co-products this sector in the future.
Coming back to our talk today, so AFLI is the project which has been carried out for almost 5 years. So how do you evaluate the success of this project so far?
Well, in a score of 1 to 10, I would give a score of 8. Well, the reason is that since we started in 2012, starting with 10 agroforestry systems in small trial plots, we now have moved beyond the plot to the farm. So we have more and more farmers being involved in farmer demonstration trials, which is one farmer demonstration trial would be around 15 hectares. And then from these farmer demonstration trials, we've moved on to establishing a 50-hectare agroforestry exemplar landscape. So we have different scales of our agroforestry systems now. First at the trial stage, and then we have at the adoption stage at the farm level, and then we have at the bigger scale. So so by bigger scale we mean more hectares of land that is being covered with agroforestry and more number of farmers being involved.
Right. So how do the local businesses support the success of this project?
The local private business, especially a tea company, has really helped in promoting the success of the project in a sense that they are able to, they receive the technologies that we developed through the project, and they are now starting to apply the technology, to use the technology that we have introduced to them, and setting up a business and using it to produce products in a commercial way. So because of that, farmers will have the opportunity to sell their products directly to this company, and also to establish that relationship with the markets and institutional buyers such as a tea company. So it's been really helpful, in promoting the success of the project.
Can you share some of the experiences of the Philippines in developing the agroforestry sector, which can be applied in Vietnam?
Yeah, I was involved in many agroforestry projects in the Philippines in the past for the last 15 years or so. And we developed a model which is we call it a tripartite arrangement between the local government, represented by the extension system, and then we as researchers, and then farmers. The role of the researchers actually is to train farmers on new technologies, and the local government co-finance the implementation of these trainings as well as the adoption process. So there has been so many lessons learned from this type of extension system. And what we've found really is that when the interest of farmers, extension workers, and local governments match together, it is kind of very easy to facilitate change at the local level.
Yeah. So do you have any recommendations for the Vietnamese government in improving the policies for the Northwestern and Mountainous farmers?
Through our engagement with, for example, in Yen Bai, the provincial government of Yen Bai has already signed 2 decisions at the provincial level to support, for example, the soil and water conservation technologies by planting grasses along the contour lines of sloping farms. I think that what is really important is the constant dialogue that we have with the DARD, the policymakers. Now, both the governments of Sonla through the DARDs as well as Yen Bai through the Department of Science and Technology, they are co-investing with us.
So thank you so much for sharing, and I hope that AgCraft will gain more improvements and success in the near future. And that is also the end of our program Sharing Vietnam. In today's program, we'll talk about the project of developing the livelihoods for the Northwestern farmers of Vietnam. So we do hope that there will be more and more meaningful projects to support the livelihoods of the Vietnamese farmers, especially in the mountainous and remote areas. For comments and feedbacks, please send it to sharingvietnam@netvietv.net. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again tomorrow.